What if America lost World War III? Okay, so before we all freak out and smash the panic button, I want to pump the brakes for everyone right now and make it very clear that we are not currently in World War III. At least we aren't in World War III yet. World War III has been on everyone's mind for quite a bit though, especially since the war in Europe started. Who would fight in it? How would it begin? Where would it be fought? And who would ultimately come out on top are all things that experts are speculating on worldwide right now. Those are some of the things that we're going to look at in today's video. I do want to put a mild disclaimer right at the beginning of this video before we go further though. This is by no means a comprehensive guide on what is going to happen in World War III. It's certainly an interesting intellectual question to tackle, but there are ultimately so many variables involved that it's truly impossible to say one way or the other what is gonna happen. If a World War III ever did occur, then I can guarantee there would be countless events that nobody saw coming that would change the entire scope of how things would play out. But with all that being said, let's jump down the theoretical rabbit hole and see how this would all go down and what would happen if the United States lost. Well, first things first, we can't accurately answer that question until we understand a few things about the war in general first. Maybe the most important thing that we need to look at is who is going to be fighting in this war and what side they're going to be fighting on. Well, once again, if a World War III did happen, I wouldn't be shocked if some things changed. But based on the world's political climate right now, we can make a few assumptions on what each side would look like. Obviously, the United States would be taking part of this war, and if they're taking part of the war, then I think we can assume Russia would be taking part as well. And Russia would be on the opposite side to America. I think in a lot of people's simulations, these are the big players that would be pitted against one another in this World War III. Taking a look at who would be fighting alongside the Americans, we can make a solid educated guess at that as well. First off, there would be NATO and the countries that are involved in NATO. Some big and notable countries involved in this list would be Germany, the UK, France, Italy, Spain, and honestly many other ones too. Those are already a lot of powers fighting alongside the Americans, but they'd also get some more help as well. Canada, where I currently live, would assuredly be involved in fighting alongside the States. Israel is a known ally to the States and would definitely support them. Taiwan would certainly side with the countries that recognize them as an actual country, and considering they could be at the forefront of countries who start the actual war, they would definitely want the Americans' help. Japan would most likely be with this side as well. South Korea would want to fight with this side, and probably Saudi Arabia as well. Now I'm sure that there would be others involved as well, but these are just some of the big players alongside the Americans. On the opposing side with Russia, there would probably be fewer nations, but they'd definitely still be very strong. China would be the big one here. If Russia went to war with America, China would want to see the Russian side come out on top, and they definitely support them. And that's a massive ally on this side. North Korea would probably want to get involved as well, and they would be on this side. And Iran is also pretty tight with the Russians and would therefore want to work alongside this group too. Once again, there were probably some countries I'm missing here, but I think that this list gives us a general idea of what we're looking at. Now, if we are to continue down this rabbit hole, I think we need to make an important assumption about this war first. No nukes are involved. If nukes get involved, then it's very likely that nobody wins and the entire world just gets blown to smithereens, which would be bad for everyone. It also makes answering this question really easy because America would probably just be a radiation rubble wasteland and would probably resemble the map of Fallout 4. So, assuming there are no nukes, how does this thing play out, and what if America loses? Well, I feel like the Russian side would need to capture pretty much all of Europe to make this happen. I think that the way that they'd break America would be by choking out their economy and pretty much cutting off all trade partners that they have with Europe. Ultimately, by doing this, they would force America to surrender to them, and then they'd effectively have incredible influence over America. Here's where it gets tricky though. I don't think that these powers would ever go into America and invade it. That'd be extremely hard for these countries to do and be successful at. And frankly, if it did happen, then I feel like we're talking maybe even 100 years in the future and a lot of things would need to change. But just because they don't have feet on the ground doesn't mean that they wouldn't have incredible power. If they ended up having a chokehold over the economy, then America would have no choice but to do a lot of what they say. They would have incredible influence over what happens in the country and the way that everyday life is run. But how would that look exactly? Well, this is another thing that's hard to say because we really don't know who they are. If we assume that the countries I listed earlier are the ones engaged in this fight, then that means that there are at least 4 countries involved in defeating America and the rest of the world. So who's actually in control of the things that they conquer, and who calls the shots? I can guarantee that Russia would like to be the ones to do it, but I'm sure that every other country that was involved in the winning side would want that as well. I find it hard to believe that China would risk their troops, use their equipment, spend potentially billions of dollars in a World War III effort to then just play second fiddle to Russia and allow them to control everything and have influence over all of it. They would want a slice of this, and that's where things get confusing. A long time ago, we talked about what would happen if China took over the world on this channel. We talked about how the style of government would change, how the schooling and culture would shift to be more centered around China. But this would be a unique situation because it wouldn't just be China who took over the world. It would be multiple other countries too. I think it's fair to wonder then if the powers that ultimately win this World War III would then engage in a World War IV of their own. How would the resources acquired during this war be split up? There are truly only a few things that we can totally understand if America lost World War III. For starters, they would probably be forced to scale back their military by a hefty amount. How much so is hard to know for sure, but guaranteed it wouldn't be allowed to stay the way it is. Number 2 is that their global influence on the world would certainly be a lot less than it is now. Yes, their economy would be important, but their opinion on worldwide issues wouldn't hold nearly as much weight as it does right now. And third is that the culture would assuredly change in America. Now, we don't really know how it would change because we don't know who would eventually take over or have influence over America, but it assuredly would not be the same as it is right now. And I think that those are the only things that we can say with pretty much 100% assurity. After that, it gets really hard to speculate on what would happen to them because there's just way too many variables involved. But please let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this question and how things would play out if they did lose a theoretical World War III. Also, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Nicholas Playlog, and I'll catch you next time.